In this video, we're going to go through the steps that I would take for answering this question here in assignment 9, which is looking at fish passage barriers in the Scappoose Watershed in the Pacific Northwest here within Columbia County using ArcPro desktop here. So what we're starting with here is where you're going to have to go grab this data, which is this Oregon Geospatial Data Clearinghouse. And there are specifically 5 folders of information that I want you to grab. One being Oregon counties. That way we can use Columbia County to find Scappoose watershed boundary. 2 being the Oregon fish habitat distribution for 2022. 3 being the watershed boundary data sets from 2015. 4 looking at the Oregon hydrography from 2020. And then finally the Oregon fish passage barriers from 2020 as well. So if you click on this link, that'll send you over to this spot, and you can just type in these names or copy and paste these if you want. Copy this over, just paste it into the search here, and go ahead and search that, and you'll be able to pick up that Oregon counties, essentially 2015. Just download that information, and then what I would do is just store that on your desktop in 5 separate folders. For me here, I think I put it into this folder here for the class under assignment 9. So I have the compressed folders of the information, and then the 5 folders of data that I was able to download. So then once you're there, once you have all that data downloaded, you're going to switch over to ArcPro and just start with a new project. And the nice thing about creating a new project, so if I just create a new project here, I can title that, assignment 9. It's going to go into this projects folder, which you can change that location. But the best part is it creates a geodatabase. We're just going to say cancel that. Let's see if we can start here. So then the next thing you're going to want to do is, you're going to want to go to the insert here and add a folder connection. And that will allow you to get the data. So over here in catalog, I have two folders here. This one being the new project that I started, assignment 9. And then this one being the assignment 9 folder with all of the data that I downloaded from that Oregon geospatial. So the biggest thing here is to figure out which files to drag over to your contents pane. And I'm going to go through those individually so that you can look at getting the correct data into your map prior to answering any of the questions. And these are huge databases. I mean, they cover the entire state. So there's a tremendous amount of data that we're going to get rid of and really focus on just the Scappoose watershed within Columbia County. So in this FHD publication 2022, we're just going to open that folder up. We're going to go look in the geodatabase here, and we're going to get down into this FHD publication geodatabase. And the 2 files that we want I'm in the wrong one here. We want to get out of the lakes. We want to go into streams. So we're looking at streams, and we want FHD Coho. So we're going to drag that FHD Coho feature over here. Should look something like this. And we're going to scroll down to FHD Steelhead Winter. So we're going to Steelhead Winter, and we'll have Steelhead Winter show up as well. So out of that huge data set, those are the only 2 that we want. When we get into the NHD Oregon State GDB, we're just going to open that up, keep opening it up, and you're going to get into the hydrography. And we want this individual feature class here called NHD flow line. NHD flow line. So that'll be our individual streams. When we get into the Oregon Fish Passage Barriers 2020, we're going to open up the geodatabase, and we want this one right here, Oregon Fish Passage Barrier Points. So that's what you're seeing, all these kind of dark greenish color, are all the fish passage barriers. And there are a variety of different styles of fish passage barriers in here, predominantly culverts and dams and maybe some bridges and so forth. So that's the feature that we want there. In the Oregon counties, you're just going to want the Oregon County, you want the poly shape file. So this one is a line shape file. We want the poly shape file. And then finally, in this WBD Oregon State, we're going to just continue opening these up until we get to the WBD, and we want this one right here, WBD HU12. So that's the watershed level at the 12th level. So those are the files that we're going to drag over here into our table of contents. So you see I have my Oregon Poly, my WBD HU12. I have other ones in here that I'm going to, walk through that I've created. We have the NHD flow line information. We have the coho, we have the steelhead, and then we should be good to go. So with all, there's a tremendous amount of data, and the biggest thing we want to do right away is get rid of as much of it as we possibly can. So what I started with is and how I'm going to answer all of these questions is through selections, either select by location or select by attribute, and or clipping. Clipping will be the other geoprocessing tool that we're going to use. So in the Oregon County poly here, I opened up the attribute table and I specifically looked for, it's going to be some kind of thing name. And so we have alternate name or institution name, and we're going to look for Clark County. So I scrolled down through here and I believe that's what it is. We'll have to go double check here. It's in Columbia County. So we're focusing on Columbia County. So as I went back in here, I can grab Columbia County. When I highlight Columbia County, that's going to highlight up here on my map. And what I can do at this point then is on my Oregon County poly, I can right click and I can point to selection and make a layer from selected features. So that will get rid of, then I can get rid of my counties. Just turn that layer off and I have just Columbia County. Go up to my map and just clear that selection. Go ahead and close this so we can get back up here. Then when you're in Columbia County, now it's a little bit easier to find the watershed boundary. So we can zoom into Columbia County up here. And sometimes you might want to just turn some of these other layers off as they're just too much information at this particular moment. I'm just turning some of these other things off here so we can see where we're going to be focusing up in this region. This is just because of the label of the streams. So then our next step for what I would do is let's get rid of most of these watershed boundaries if we can. So to get the watershed boundary that we're looking for, we're going to, you could do another thing. We could just look in the attribute table and we should have something that's called name or something along those lines. So we're going to keep looking through here. So we're going to see name and we're going to be looking for Scappoose. So one way to do this is, select by attributes, where you go into this and we're going to create a new selection and we just write a basic expression here. So we're going to select the field. The field that we want is name. We're going to put on there name and it's going to be equal to, and then we're just going to scroll down and we can actually just start typing in there. And you can see Scappoose Creek. Okay, so we'll say Scappoose Creek and apply that. And so then when that selection occurs, we get Scappoose Creek watershed boundary, which is exactly what we want to do. So we're going to right click on that guy again, right click, point up to selection, make layer from selected features. Now, the nice thing about this is once you've created this selection, it's kind of like a temporary file, but we want to actually export that. So once we have the selection, we're going to right click on that selection and we're going to point to data and then export feature. When you export that feature, it's going to show up over here in your assignment 9 geodatabase that we started with the project. So there's my Scappoose Creek right there, which is brilliant. So we're just rename these. These are already feature classes, and here's all the data I'm creating. So here's all the data I started with. Here's all the data I'm going to create in my assignment 9 geodatabase, which is wonderful. It's packaged, ready for me to go. So then what I end up with is, Scappoose watershed boundary. I can turn this one off, and now this is going to be my clipping tool. So I'm going to use this Scappoose watershed boundary to cut this NHD flow line so that I only end up with the streams within the Scappoose watershed. So I'm going to turn that off, and we should end up with something that looks like this. So these are our streams now that are inside the Scappoose watershed. I'm going to do the exact same thing to the FHD. So the FHD Coho and the FHD Steelhead Winter feature classes as well. So I'm going to clip those to this Scappoose watershed. So how you do that, it's back up here under analysis. We're going to click on tools, and you can just type in here clip, CLIP. It's going to pull up the clipping tool. We're going to double click that. We're going to clip. So the input feature is what we want to clip. So we want to clip this NHD flow line, not the clip one, but the one down here, NHD flow line. So you're going to scroll down and find that in here, NHD flow line. And the clip feature is what we're going to clip it with. So that's our Scappoose watershed boundary. So here I'd say Scappoose watershed boundary. And then here's what your clip is. You can give it a new name, whatever you want it to be. It will actually, go into the geodatabase like you want it to. Okay, I'm not going to run that, but you would just hit run, and then it's going to end up with essentially these two clipped features here, which are your fish habitats inside. It's hard to see with the streams on there, but just trust me, there's your two streams. So we have Scappoose Creek and McNulty coming down here on the bottom. So we're eliminating data, which is exactly what we want to do. The next thing we need to do is we're going to have all of these fish passage barriers here. And these are all outside of our watershed boundary. So again, I'm going to use the clipping tool back under my tools here and clip the fish passage barriers to the Scappoose watershed boundary. And so we should end up with, fish passage barriers inside the Scappoose watershed boundary, something like this. And that's actually probably adequate. You don't necessarily need to go much more than that. With those NHD flow lines, so forth, you're going to get some extra data in there. But, if you really wanted to just focus on Scappoose and McNulty Creek, what you may end up doing is, let's make sure my layers are on here. You may end up just wanting to focus on Scappoose and McNulty Creek. So from this layer here, if we go in and look at the attribute table of that, inside the attribute table, you're going to have this GNIS name, and there's more than just what you're seeing in here. But what I did is just wrote a basic selection. So we're going with GNIS name, and so we would go back up here to our map tab, and we're going to select from this NHD flow line clip. So I was in the wrong one. I should have been in this one here. This was everything. So you have other creeks or other drainage ditches or something more. There's 472 inside this clipped NHD flow line. We only want to focus on the ones that are Scappoose Creek and McNulty Creek. So we're going to make a selection from this GNIS name field. So I'm going to select by attributes, and I'm going to write a selection that says create new selection where that GNIS name is equal to, and I'm going to say McNulty Creek. And then I'm going to add a clause, and I'm going to say or. If I say and, then it has to be both, and nothing will be selected. GNIS name is equal to Scappoose Creek. Hit apply and OK, and that's going to create a selection of what you see here. It takes our 472 records and turns that into, I think, 33 or something along those lines. Yeah, 33. So that's Scappoose Creek and McNulty Creek within the watershed boundary. And all I did is went through here and just symbolized those with blue colors. And I just left the descriptors that the data set had, even though you're going to see that we do have some problems here. One of the problems is down here. I misidentified this earlier. I think I called this creek up here Scappoose Creek. Scappoose Creek down here on the bottom does not have any connector, which is a little bit problematic, but that's because of the descriptor down here. And then the next thing I did is I wanted to make sure that I just didn't have all the fish passage barriers within the watershed. We wanted to just look at the fish passage barriers that are along Scappoose and McNulty Creek. And so to do that, I just did a select by location. And so what I was going to do is select from the fish passage barriers clip. Okay, so from this layer here, I just went select by location. So I wanted to change this to the fish passage barriers clip. So I'm going to select from those, and I want that to be within a distance. So within a distance, usually 100 feet can be acceptable. So I want those to be within 100 feet of the Scappoose and McNulty Creek feature class that I did. And so I've done this part thus far. Need to put in my linear distance, and I'm going to change that to feet and go ahead and hit apply and OK. And it's going to select then just the fish passage barriers that are within McNulty Creek and Scappoose Creek. There's only one on the end of Scappoose Creek here. So that answers my question for the assignment here back in assignment 9. There's several questions that I'm having you answer here that are from within the attribute table. I've also, each time I've done one of those selections, I've right-clicked on the feature right here down to selection. I made a layer from selected features, and then I went back into that selected layer, back to data, and I exported those features so that they show up over here in my assignment 9 geodatabase as individual feature classes. And when you're naming those, just make sure that you're using correct conventions in terms of either no spaces or underscores to connect words. So hopefully that works for you. Next thing would be I'm going to insert my new layout, and I should end up with something around this type of map when I'm done. So make sure it has all of the essential map elements, including your name. Here I've added a couple things like the dynamic spatial reference and so forth. Round all of your scales. By this point, all of your scales should be even numbers. Your scale bars should be nice even numbers as well. And then all of your naming conventions in here. I see one I would probably remove here, this all other values, because there is no other values in there. So I can get rid of that in my legend, essentially. So hopefully that helps you, and you're able to process the assignment 9. as always, reach out if you have any questions.